Hey guys, welcome back to another video. After a long overdue return, I will be doing the FIFA World Cup predictions for Qatar in 2022. So far, this isn't seeded right here. I'll move on to another slide. I'll have my groups from first to fourth. The top two will be in green, the bottom two will be in red. I'll then move on to my knockout stage and go all the way up to who I think will be the winner. Starting with Group A, we probably have the lowest quality for an overall group in this one. Starting off, we have Qatar, who are the first seeds in this group, but only because they're the hosts. They do have a host advantage, and World Cups hosts do seem to do a lot better than they should be able to perform, and we'll see how that goes in this World Cup. Next, we have Ecuador. Ecuador was the last team to automatically qualify in the South American region, so they got that last automatic spot. Then we have Senegal. Senegal is actually a team that I'm really big on. They've recently won the African Cup of Nations. They have a lot of world-class players in Mane, Mende, and Koulibaly. In my opinion, they are by far the best African team. Then we have who is probably the most likely to actually win this group in the Netherlands. They are the highest ranked squad, but I do think that they might struggle a little bit just because they're not playing any other European teams or teams who really play, like I guess your regular classic style play. They're going to be playing a lot of more scrappy teams in Africa, Asia, and then you also have Ecuador from South America. So it's not going to be their usual style of play. So I think they could miss a game or two. So for that reason, I have Senegal in first, Netherlands in second. So Senegal is going to be my first seed, Netherlands in second. Now, I did put Qatar over Ecuador just because they are the hosts. I don't think they're going to be able to get out of the group, but I do think since they're playing at home with the fans, they will be able to get up to third. And so that's why I have Ecuador in fourth, even though I do think if Ecuador is in some other groups, they maybe could be higher, just not enough to move up to second. And then we have the UEFA playoff because in Group B, with the war going on in Ukraine, they weren't able to finish the whole European seeding to see who gets into the World Cup. So Ukraine still has to play Scotland, and then the winner of that would be Wales. Now, with everything going on, I'm not even sure if Ukraine will be able to finish out that game. I'm not sure how long they have to finish that game. But I do think whether Ukraine is able to play Scotland, whoever wins that, I do think Wales is going to be able to edge them out. So this is going to be my Group B over here. So we have England. England is definitely the best team on paper. They're entering their golden generation. They have a lot of talent. Then we have Iran. To be honest, I don't really follow a lot of these Asian teams, and I don't really know too much about them or who's on their team. So I can't make a super accurate prediction for them. But then obviously we have the USA. We didn't have the greatest qualifying campaign, but we have a lot of talent. We just have a lot of managerial issues as well as Greg Berhalter. A lot of people don't like his selections. However, we should have the second most talent in this group over Iran and Wales, but definitely far inferior to England. So then next we would have Wales, who is a very round squad. They don't really have anyone bad. They don't really have anyone who's super amazing. Obviously, they do have Gareth Bale, who in his prime was a world-class player, but has recently fallen off. And so for those reasons, I'm gonna have England is gonna be in first. I don't think they quite choke in the group stage. Maybe a little bit of bias towards USA, but I do think USA should be able to come second in this group. Obviously, Wales or Iran in real life could get that second spot, but I do think US, then Wales, and then Iran. Then moving on to Group C, we have Argentina. Argentina is definitely going to be the heavy favorites. They won Copa America back in 2021, and they went undefeated in their South American qualifications, even though they were second to Brazil. Then we have Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, another one of those teams who qualifies to Asia, and that I really don't know too much about. But I do think they are definitely a clear underdog for this group and probably will not get in the top three. Then we have Mexico. Mexico, one of those teams. I'm sure a lot of you guys follow them, as you are probably American fans for my channel. But Mexico, one of those teams who doesn't have crazy talent, but they just play really good as a team. and really good in World Cups. Over the last 7 World Cups prior to this, they've been able to go to the round of 16, but they've always gone out in the round of 16. Then lastly, we have Poland. Obviously, Poland, they have some great players. They have Szczesny, who's Juventus' goalkeeper. They have Lewandowski, who, in my opinion, has been the best striker over the last 2 years. They're really good at qualifying for events like these or like the Euros for the World Cup. However, they don't always perform super great in these tournaments. They did just get a new coach, so maybe that can give their players confidence. But I just don't think Szczesny and Lewandowski are going to be enough. So for those reasons, I have Argentina winning the group, Mexico in second, and then I think Poland will just miss out. And then Saudi Arabia, I'd be kind of surprised if they even took a point in this group. I guess we'll have to see in real life, but I definitely don't think Saudi Arabia is going to be able to qualify from Group C. Moving on to Group D, you have your CONMEBOL, which is your South American team. So I believe Peru is fifth, just missing out on automatic qualification, meaning that they'll have to play the Asian qualification team, which is the Emirates versus Australia. Now, I do think, again, like the Wales, whoever wins out of the Emirates and Australia, I do think Peru is going to be able to beat them. So I'm going to put Peru in my group. So this is what your Group D is going to look like. So you have France. Obviously, France is a great team on paper. They won the last World Cup. Everyone kind of knows about the World Cup curse. So no team has ever won the World Cup since 2002. The only team to ever win the World Cup and then get out of their group was Brazil. They won the World Cup in 2006, and then they got out of their group in 2006. Since then, no one has won the World Cup and gone through. Then we have Peru. Peru is definitely going to have a dogfight after winning that playoff. They have two very good teams in their group, in France and Denmark. So then getting on Denmark, I think Denmark is definitely going to be a fan favorite after Eriksson went down in the Euros with that cardiac arrest. Everyone was worrying. And then Denmark ended up putting on a great show. They got all the way into the semifinals without him. So they've been playing really good. Now Eriksson is back. And I do think that they were going to be a pretty good team. Lastly, we have Tunisia. Tunisia, another one of those teams I don't really follow. I don't know too much about them. And I do think they are going to be very big underdogs in this group. So surprisingly, I do think Denmark is going to be one of those dark horses in this team. So I have put them on top. I think France maybe will struggle. I don't want to say the curse drops them all the way down. I don't think France could really drop behind Peru or Tunisia like in these past World Cups where the winners of the last World Cups crash out totally. I do think France qualifies, but I do think Denmark will be on top of them. And then you'll have Peru and Tunisia rounding out third and fourth. Then in our next group, we're going to have Costa Rica as they represent CONCACAF. And then we're going to have New Zealand as they're in that Oceanic playoff that only gets half a seed. So whoever wins out of the whole Oceania still has to play the fourth place team in CONCACAF, which is Costa Rica. And in this one, I'm going to have Costa Rica going through. And for my reasons, I'll talk about it just in a second when talking about Costa Rica. So first, we have Spain. Obviously, they're one of two big giants in this group. You have Spain and Germany. They'll be a real contender to win their whole World Cup, and they have a lot of talent. Then we have Costa Rica, who have in this last the whole last round of the CONCACAF, the last 7 games, they were able to win 6 of the games and only tie 1. And that includes 1 tie to Mexico, and then they beat Canada 1-0, and they also beat USA 2-0. So if they can continue that run of form, I do think they maybe have a shot of getting out of this group. But for now, I'm going to move on to Germany. So in Germany, they're kind of in the same boat as Spain. They've been really good. They did win the World Cup back in 2014, and then they crashed out in 2018 with a group with Sweden, Mexico, and I want to say it was either Japan or South Korea. I want to say South Korea right now, but they did not get out of their group in the last World Cup. And so I think they will be looking to bounce back. They do have a very strong team. So moving on to Japan. Japan has made the World Cup 6 times before this one and has split between the round of 16 and staying in the group. Unfortunately, it is their turn to get out of the group when he flips every other tournament. And so for that reason, I'm going to have Germany winning the group. I do think it'll be tight. It could go either way from Germany or Spain. Spain's going to come in second. I do have Costa Rica and Germany missing out on third and fourth. I think Costa Rica can hop over Japan if they can keep this form going that they've been able to carry on after this last round of CONCACAF qualifiers. Next, we have Group F, which consists of Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. So Belgium, for me, are the very clear favorites for this group. You know, they have a golden generation that is starting to die out. They're starting to become a little older. This might be their last push for a World Cup. So we'll have to see how they can do. And then Canada. Canada was only a 4 seed coming into this tournament. They've obviously been really good over the last year, thanks to Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David. However, the way the whole FIFA rankings work, it consists of a 4 year period, and so they haven't been great, mainly for those other 3 years. So it dropped them to a 4 seed, which is really going to hurt their chances in this tournament. Next, we have Morocco, another team I don't know a whole lot about. I do know Ziyech, their really only star player. He plays for Chelsea. Him and the Morocco coach have some beef right now. So I believe Ziyech hasn't been able to get into the squads. And I don't think if the coach and Ziyech can squash that beef, I don't think Morocco really has too much of a shot. So then lastly, working on to Croatia. Obviously, Croatia made a dream run back in 2018 in the last World Cup. They made it all the way into the finals when no one thought they could. They did end up losing to France, but we'll have to see how they do in this tournament. I do think it'll be pretty tight. So I have Belgium winning the group. Croatia and Canada. I think Canada really does have a chance to get out of this group, but if I'm being realistic, I'm going to say Croatia gets out of the group for right now. Canada hasn't made the World Cup in a very, very long time. Croatia obviously has that experience with them getting all the way to the final in the last group, and they still have a lot of those same guys. So I'm going to give it to Croatia on this one, and I do have Morocco in bottom of this group. Next, moving on to Group G, we have Brazil. Brazil obviously has a lot of great talent. They won the South American qualification, and they previously just moved up to first in the whole world rankings. Then we have Serbia. Serbia qualified after topping their qualification in a group with Ireland and the Giants of Portugal. Next, we have Switzerland. Switzerland are kind of in the same boat as Serbia, as they had a group of Italy to get into the World Cup, which they knocked out Italy, which is very big because Italy just won the whole Euros in the summer, kind of declaring themselves as the best European team. So since Switzerland was able to knock out Italy, it actually led to Italy not even qualifying for the World Cup, which was the biggest team to not qualify in the FIFA World Rankings. Next, we have Cameroon. Cameroon is going to be another big underdog. They having to play against South American giants in Brazil and two really good European teams. And this is how I see the group going. So back in 2018, you actually had the same boat where you had Brazil, Switzerland, and Serbia in a group, and it ended up this exact same way with Brazil, Switzerland, Serbia, first, second, and third. And I do think history will repeat itself on this one. So I'm going to say Brazil tops the group and Switzerland gets in just over Serbia. But I do think that Switzerland and Serbia is going to be very tight for who qualifies in second. Lastly, for our groups, we have Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. So Portugal is obviously going to be Ronaldo's last run, or at least I think so. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play for another 4 years. He is starting to get old. But Portugal does have a lot of talent, and that is why they are the first seed in this group. Next, we have Ghana. I think Ghana is probably one of the lowest seeds, definitely maybe bottom 3 in the whole tournament when it comes to FIFA World Rankings. They used to be a big African powerhouse. They really aren't anymore. They've kind of fallen off. And then we have Uruguay. Uruguay, historically, they've been really good in World Cups, but a lot of their great players like Cavani, Godin, and Suarez are all 35 and over. So although they have that experience, I do think the team is going to start going on a slight decline. Lastly, we have South Korea. South Korea has made the last 9 World Cups, but they've gotten knocked out in the 7 of those 9 in the group stage. For this one, I'm surprisingly gonna give South Korea, the nod just over Uruguay. I know it might be a hot take. Portugal will obviously win the group. South Korea, shout out to my dad. His favorite player is Heung-min Son. I think maybe he can do enough just to get them over Uruguay and Ghana. So for those reasons, I'm going to give it to South Korea, who's going to make it to the round of 16. So this is what the knockout stages are going to look like. We have Senegal, USA, Argentina, France, Germany versus Croatia, Brazil versus South Korea, England versus the Netherlands, Denmark versus Mexico, Belgium versus Spain, Portugal versus the Swiss. I'm going to go ahead and skip Senegal and USA for now, but I'm going to work down the whole left side, the whole right side, and then I'll come back to that Senegal and USA for the last round of 16 game. So working on Argentina, this Argentina-France game seems like it could already be a whole World Cup final. Obviously, it's Messi's last World Cup. Personally, I believe so. Can you play another 4 years just like Ronaldo? I would assume it's probably the last World Cup for both of these players. Argentina has a great squad, a lot of talent, but they do have a couple of gaps in their squad. Whereas France won it all in 2018. I know the World Cup curse is really real, so maybe they crash out in the group stage, but I do just think France has all around a better squad, and so I'm going to have to give it to France. Next, we have Germany and Croatia. So Germany, they're a very good group, obviously. They have a lot of talent. In my opinion, they probably have the best midfield in the whole tournament. And then they're going to be going up against Croatia. Croatia is definitely an aging group, which, can be good, can be bad. They obviously have a lot of experience from the guys who were able to take them to the World Cup final last time. However, I do think that was obviously very odd for them to get there, very good for them, but it just was very surprising. And I don't think that they're going to be able to repeat the same process. So I'm going to give this one to Germany. Next, we have Brazil and South Korea. I'm not going to go too much into depth to this one. I did surprisingly give South Korea a bid into the round of 16, but Brazil, number 1 seed in the world right now for the FIFA rankings. They are really good, and I just don't really think South Korea has much of a chance to beat Brazil. So I'm going to give Brazil the nod in this one. Next, we have England. Obviously, England hasn't hasn't gotten a trophy in almost 60 years when they won the 1966 World Cup. They're going to be going up against the Netherlands. The Netherlands, they do have a few studs, but there definitely are some gaps in that group. England definitely going to be pushing. They're going to be really hoping for a World Cup win here. And for that reason, that generational talent they have right now, I'm going to go ahead and give England the nod over the Netherlands. Then, moving on, we have Denmark and Mexico. Obviously, if there's any Mexican fans watching this, you definitely do think you got a relatively good draw against who you could face. Denmark also going to be able to think they can beat Mexico. Keep going into what I was talking about. I definitely think Denmark could definitely be a dark horse for me in this tournament, as Eriksson, his whole cardiac arrest incident, I think he'll definitely have a lot of people on the Denmark side rooting for them to win. And then Mexico, they're definitely a team that could beat them. They don't always have the best talent. Maybe one of the bottom 2 talents in this whole round of 16. But they do always perform in World Cups with guys like Ochoa. They just seem to play way better when it comes to the World Cup. But I'm just going to give the slight edge to Denmark. However, I do think Mexico definitely has a chance of winning that one. All right, so going on, this one could definitely go either way between Belgium and Spain. I think they definitely both have world-class players. Belgium's big generational talents have been going on a slight decrease, or maybe not a decrease, but they're definitely starting to age, and this could be one of the last tournaments for them. And I just feel like Spain has a better chance of performing in the World Cups. It just seems like they always do. So I'm going to go ahead and give Spain the nod over Belgium. Next, we have Portugal and the Switzerland. So Ronaldo fans are definitely going to want to see their man finally lift a World Cup. It's probably going to be his last World Cup. I'm going to keep saying it. All the Ronaldo fans in the world are going to be pushing for Portugal to win this one. And I definitely think they can get it over the Switzerland. It's not that Switzerland has a bad team. I just think Portugal overall is going to be better. So I'm going to go ahead and put Portugal into the quarterfinals. Lastly, let's go back to the Senegal and USA game. Obviously, USA, we're not going to be super sad about this draw. I think this is definitely a winnable game against Senegal. Senegal also going to be looking at it the same way. I definitely think that they're going to see USA as a team that they can beat. So getting onto it, Senegal really is a good team. I wouldn't say they're underrated, but I do think that they are really good. So Senegal has 6 players who are over $20 million in their market value, while USA will only have 3 when McKennie comes back. Also, Senegal has World Cup players in Mendy, Sadio Mane, who have already played before. These guys are world class. Mane, in my opinion, might be one of the best wingers in the whole Premier League. Then you have Mendy, who's a great player for Chelsea. He's won the Club World Cup and he's also won the Champions League for them. And overall, I just want to be realistic here. I do obviously like this draw. I think USA has a chance. But if I'm giving my real predictions, I'm going to have to say this is the end of the line for USA and Senegal makes it through. So this is going to be your quarterfinalists. I'm going to move over to another slide, make it look just a little more pretty. So this is what we have. We have Senegal and France, Germany, Brazil, England versus Denmark, and then Spain versus Portugal. So for this first game, we obviously have Senegal, who I do like their team a lot. I'm hoping for the best of them. Obviously, when they do play USA in the tournament, I'm going to be rooting for the USA. But now that I already have them knocking out USA, I'll be rooting for them against France. They have a great squad. However, I just think France really doesn't have any weaknesses, and it'll be a really hard game for Senegal to be able to beat them. So I'm going to go ahead and put France as my first team in the semifinals. And this is another game here between Germany and Brazil that just seems like it could already be a World Cup final. You have the famous scoreline back in the 2014 semifinals where Germany and Brazil played. Germany beating Brazil 7-1. It's a famous scoreline. A lot of people call it, if you beat someone 7-1, everyone is going to say, you got Brazil. It's a very famous scoreline. Brazil is really good. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the people that are on Brazil, and this might be a little more of an emotional pick. I just don't like Neymar and some of the other players. So really, that's the only reason I'm going to give the nod to Germany. It's just because I'm not a huge fan of Brazil, and it's just an emotional pick if I'm being honest. Next, we have England and Denmark. England, obviously, I talked about them before. They have a very generational talent. And they're going to be playing against Denmark, who I've already mentioned I think could be a very big dark horse in this tournament. England definitely reminds me a lot of the Dallas Cowboys. As a Texan, I know a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans. They hype up their team every year, say they're going to do really great. The team has great talent. They get to the playoffs, and they crash. And because of that, I think England is going to do the exact same thing. I'm still, like I said, I'm very big on Denmark. And I think Denmark is going to make a surprise push into the semifinals of the World Cup. Our last quarterfinal game we have between Spain and Portugal. This is a very hard pick, in my opinion. Spain and Portugal, either of these teams could definitely win. I'm just going to give the nod to Portugal. And the reason being is because Spain does have a slight striker problem. And I just think that's going to stop Spain from being able to beat Portugal. And then again, you have Ronaldo's last hurrah. So getting into the semifinals, first match is going to be France versus Germany. Germany, this is another very hard pick. We're coming down to the semifinals. I really do think there's probably about 8 or 10 teams that could win the whole World Cup, if I'm being honest. So France, they haven't been playing perfectly, since the last World Cup. They haven't done amazing. But in my opinion, they really are the only team that can really match Germany midfielder for midfielder. France has Pogba and Conte. Germany obviously has a great midfield. France can take the midfield. And I also just think France has better areas when it comes to attack. And so for that reason, I think France just gets past Germany. They're going to be looking to win back-to-back World Cups. So France is going to be my first finalist for the World Cup. Then we have Denmark and Portugal. although I've been high on Denmark this whole time, Portugal, they are a very strong team. They have a lot of talent. I'm not a huge Ronaldo fan myself. I don't hope it's coming across that I'm a Ronaldo fan. I'm definitely Team Messi. Um, but I do think he's going to be able to push past Denmark, and it's going to be the end of the line. Portugal is going to be my other finals. So here's our World Cup match. We're going to have France. We're going to have Portugal. I do think this is going to get a lot of the headlines. France looking to win back-to-back World Cups. It hasn't been done in a while. Then you have Portugal. Everyone who's Ronaldo is going to be rooting for them to win the World Cup before he retires. I just think not Ronaldo. Portugal does have a few gaps, and I think France matches up pretty good against them. France has obviously already shown that they don't mind the pressure in a World Cup final, as they won the last World Cup. As long as the curse doesn't get to them, my World Cup winner is going to be France. I think France wins the World Cup in 2022.